we are ready to roll out our fresh made pasta dough. We are going to be using a pasta machine, which doesn't really make sense because it's human operated, not battery or machine operated. So we're going to open up our pasta. It might be a little bit sticky, okay? Flour is your friend when you guys are working today. So I might as well just take a little bit, sprinkle some down, and even like coat this little piece in some, okay? So I want to first talk about the pasta machine itself. Your machine comes in 4 pieces, okay? This is the base roller. Then you have the noodle cutter, which has fettuccine and spaghetti, or I think it's closer to angel hair. And then you have the clamp that attaches it to the countertop. This is important to get it to work properly. And then you guys have a crank that goes into the base here and moves the rollers themselves. It also goes into the noodle cutter here and operates those rollers as well. Okay, so we're gonna set our pasta machine up. So the clamp goes into the base here and attaches to the countertop underneath. What you wanna make sure you don't do is you wanna make sure that you're not attaching it where there's a drawer so that you block yourself off from opening that drawer. So I'm gonna do it over on this side. You wanna do it where there's a little bit of a ledge also for this clamp to hang on to. So now I'm just tightening that up, and you don't want to put the noodle cutter on until you have your pasta sheeted out to the correct thinness that we need. The pasta bases also have a knob on the right hand side there, and that knob controls the width of the rollers. The rollers were in the base that I showed you earlier, and this knob on the side here controls the roller and how wide or how narrow the roller is. So you want to start on the widest setting to start. So that's 7 on these. You want to start on a 7. Now, these knobs are weird, and one of you has a broken knob, and that's because they're really fragile. They break really easily. They're also on a peg system, so you have to pull it out, turn, and then find that next peg. So make sure you guys are being really careful when you're using those. You break it, you buy it kind of thing, all right? Now you want to cut your pasta into about 6 equal sections. The less you work with, the better. I'm going to go 8 actually. So I did 4 and then cut each one in half after that. So once I have my sections cut, I'm going to start just by hand. Now I also have a baking sheet set aside. That's where my cut noodles are gonna go. And I have some flour ready because I'm gonna toss the cut noodles in some flour so they don't stick together. I'm gonna start by flattening my pasta piece, okay, just my one piece, into a rectangular shape here, okay? Then I'm going to go through my roller, and you want to roll clockwise. Now, in the first 2 numbers, 7 and 6, the important part to this is folding the pasta before you send it through. So you want to fold it and write a note here on your recipe. You want to fold it about 2 to 3 times in each setting to start on 6 and 7. Okay, so I'm just folding it in half. And what this is doing is it's creating it just to be stronger because we're gonna stretch it out super thin. So lots of kids have done this different ways in the past. I like to go through each setting with all the pasta and then move on to the next setting, if that makes sense. So you can do it, you could do 1 sheet of pasta all the way down, or you to the number that you're gonna go to here in a second, or you could do them all at a 7, then you could bring them all to a 6, and then you could bring them all to a 5 and a 4. Now I'm flouring it every time because remember, flour is your friend, and these machines, when you get pasta stuck in them, they're not fun to clean, so you wanna make sure your pasta dough is not sticking to there. Remember, I folded that about 2 to 3 times at setting 7. So I'm gonna set the rest of this aside. I'll be demoing with these 2 pieces. The next thing to do is to go to a 6, and it's very repetitive from here on out. So we're just gonna go through, fold. We're gonna go through. I'm gonna do twice on a 6 for each piece, folding a couple times. If it gets too wide, fold it this way. contour, so I'm just gonna get it a little more and go one more time. So this is a 6. Now I'm gonna go to a 5. Now you don't have to fold it from 5 on out. But you do want to flour it and send it through at least twice. See how it's stretching out? It's getting longer. It's getting a little bit more thin. And we're going to get it right to that perfect consistency for a fettuccine. Fettuccine likes a little bit of a thicker noodle than spaghetti. So we're going to go to a 4. Which is my next one. So I'm gonna go through 4 twice with each piece, and then I'm ready to cut my noodles. If this piece ever gets too long, you can always cut it in half. It also helps to have a couple people kind of passing it through and moving it along. If I was doing lasagna, I would probably stop at a 4 also, and then just use these noodles as is. And fresh pasta does not take long to cook. You guys are gonna see it only takes about, I would say, 2 minutes maybe to cook that. So we're ready to attach our noodle cutter. We're gonna be using the fettuccine side. Do not use this side, it'll get stuck in there. We're gonna use the fettuccine. So this slides on using these brackets here on the side. So you just slide that on and kind of tap it into place. And then make sure your crank's gonna go through. Perfect. Now, when you're eating pasta, I don't like my noodles to be super long, so I like to cut these to a desirable noodle length before I put them through the cutter here. All right, so I'm gonna flour them one last time. The flour sometimes help dry it out a little bit and helps the noodle cutter slice those. So we're gonna put it in clockwise. And when I'm done, beautiful fettuccine. And if your noodles are a little sticky, don't worry. You're just gonna kind of gently separate. And then you're gonna also take each little batch after you cut it, and you're gonna take a little flour, and we're just gonna toss it in flour and set them in little piles on our baking sheet. So, write down, if you haven't already, what number you're supposed to go to on the roller. You're going from a 7 to, write it down, assign jobs for today, executive chef, write down that you're going to be responsible for grabbing the chicken breast. Okay, shopper, you need to get the ingredients for your Alfredo sauce. And then we're gonna take a second before we start and we'll read through the instructions for the chicken and for the Alfredo sauce, which are both very simple to do. Just be careful when you guys are separating out the noodles that you don't tear them. Just be really gentle. I don't know why these pasta cutters tend to cut every other noodle perfectly, because that's just the way it goes. So you just gotta gently separate those other ones. But if you pull hard on these, they will break. You're just gonna cook the noodles off for about 30 seconds, honestly, to 2 minutes, depending on how thick they are and the consistency of them. And when they float to the top, that's a great indication of when they're ready to roll. When you guys are cleaning these today, you need to make sure that you do not submerge them or use any water on them, okay? We're gonna use paper towels, dry towels, to get all that stuff out. I also have toothpicks if any pasta gets caught in the rollers or in the noodle cutters to get them clean. All right, we're gonna place them very carefully back in their boxes so the next class can enjoy them just the way you guys found them. All right, let's talk about sauce and chicken.